Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Fired up and ready to ride along with you on the way to work or school or wherever you're going, or if you're just, still at home in bed or in the kitchen. We got you covered here on O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, Grover Norquist. Tax policy, remember that? Well, what does Grover from Americans for Tax Reform think of the new House Speaker compared to the last House Speaker? And also, what's going on? Can Virginia be a income tax-free state? Wouldn't that be a great thing for Virginia to be like Tennessee and Texas and Florida and the other 8 states that don't have
you
an
actually
income tax?
Could move to Virginia. We
you know
might
what?
get you here.
Meredith always says if they move the Naval Academy to Virginia, we're there. But no state taxes might be the difference maker, too. We'll get to that. Also, we might... It is 8:07 now, and we're charging along here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for letting us be a part of your morning. And joining us right now is Superintendent of Spotsylvania County Public Schools, Mark Taylor, talk about the upcoming election for school board in that county. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Mercedes.
So
great to be with you.
Let's be clear. The last time there was a school board election in Spotsylvania County, there was a huge groundswell of support for a new direction. You got a brand new majority on the board. They hired you. And, and you're sort of ruffling feathers down there. We like that about you, Mark. And so now apparently there's a lot of money coming in there to try to reverse the trend at the school board. What's happening in these elections?
Yeah, so the thing is, there's a bare majority, 4-3.
Oh, Mr. Taylor, I'm not sure what happened, but you just moved to a place where your phone is incomprehensible. So let's try that again. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now, yeah, go ahead.
That's better.
Okay, yeah, Larry. What's happening is that we've had a bare majority, 4-3, on our school board, and so really any election puts that 4-3 at risk because there are seats up from both sides. So here we are, and this is not a plug for any candidate. This is a plug for parental involvement because that's really what the new administration has brought, and parental choice about exposure to sexually explicit materials. But I think more importantly, even, we're working to increase parental and student choice about academic pathways and instructional pathways in career tech opportunities and other opportunities for students, because we want every kid to have their very best future. Parental involvement is critical, and that's really what is the driver for Spotsylvania County Public Schools right now. And we can keep that or we can not keep that, and that's really up to the voters. And, I made a new friend I wanted to tell you about, Y.L. El-Kashari, who is a Muslim daddy in Montgomery County. And I met Y.L. in a discussion about parental choice and parental rights about curriculum. And guess what? Montgomery County, Maryland has taken away parental choice about at least certain curriculum issues. And that's not the case in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. And all we're saying just a minute ago, you could just move to Virginia. And as far as parental choice in public education is concerned, that line plays as well. You could just move to Spotsylvania County. Our administration is all about parental engagement, parental choice in the public school division. That's what this election is about.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, Mark, you were able to remove at least 23 sexually explicit books out of the school libraries, and then you also, the Spotsylvania County School Board, back in August, adopted a new policy for transgender students. Of course, the liberal media is calling it controversial. It's controversial to require school staff to refer to students by the names and pronouns that match the sex on their official record. It is clearly crazy. Like, when I mean crazy, is how we have gone from prioritizing reading, writing, and math to prioritizing a kid's sexuality. I mean, have you seen the left just gone?
Yeah.
Talk about crazy, but ballistic on you all for taking these actions.
Yes, ma'am. And Mercedes, so that's 23 more books for a total of 37 that have removed. The parental engagement is actually critical around the transgender issue, and we're using pronouns or names that parents authorize and support because the transgender data shows that for kids that are taking that path, parental support and engagement plays a major role in the success of their outcome. We're not telling them what to do. We're telling them we want you to have the very best outcome, whatever you choose, and parents have to be involved in making those choices.
Yeah.
And Mercedes, I love your point about when did the conversation come to be about what is the most vile material we're willing to put in front of our children instead of what is the best academic material to put in front of them? And how is it that we are demonizing normal human adolescence? It is normal human adolescence to have a period of hormonal-driven uncertainty and evolution into the mature self, and that the vast majority of young people by the age of 20 have settled down and are engaged with and embracing their biology.
Yeah.
So there is no reason for surgical change. There is no reason for storm. It's just get through what is a normal period, which has always been regarded as a normal period.
That's right.
in development. And I think our focus needs to be much more on not what sexual preference. The big question of life is not really with whom will I copulate. The big question in life is where do my talents and gifts take me? What is my best future? Is that higher education? Is that a career training path? Is that enlistment?
That's right.
In the military. And we're hungry for partnerships with local businesses that want to help support our training of young people who want to take a practical path that will get them trained as an HVAC mechanic, trained as an electrician, trained in any of the other, nearly 40 options that we now provide, and we want to grow those options.
It's a great new direction. And if Spotsylvania voters like the direction that Mark Taylor and the new school board has taken for the last year or so, then you want to get engaged in this election, because if the other guys win and take back the board, we're going to go right back to where we were. If I could ask you, though, Ms. Taylor, as the school year began, we had you on to discuss the number of vacancies that you had for teachers in the school system. And I know that a lot of students were still having to go remote, or at least I read that they were going remote because of teacher vacancies. What is the status of that now? What have you done to try to fill those gaps?
Good, Kelly. Larry, we are doing a variety of things to work at filling those gaps, including growing in our capacity with technology outreach, using new tools that have not been used before to attract new teachers. That said, we are, even in September, we were significantly below the number of vacancies that we had last year. We had some choices that had been made at an individual school that needed to be adjusted. That's what you read about. And in fact, in that situation, we have substantially all, if not entirely all, of those kids off of virtual learning. We hired 2 teachers, really the week that story came out, hired 2 new teachers, and also reassigned some blocks of teaching in the building. That was a math problem. We got that math problem covered, and it was covered within a very short time of its
Excellent
emergence.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for that update on it, and thank you for lending your voice for these all-important school board elections. You know how much they mean to us, and keep up the good work in Spotsylvania County. We got to leave it there. Superintendent Mark Taylor. Thank you, sir.
Larry, thank you. Have a great day.
It is 8:16. Let's get straight to Jamie Witten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
All right, 66. Two problems now. First, in Delaplane, we are just at a crawl still with this long-standing crash, eastbound 6617 Delaplane. Initially, it was only the shoulder getting by. Now, crash in Manassas. I'm going to update the cameras here. Yep, still only the right lane getting by in the main line, 66 eastbound. As you head through Manassas, now that help is on the scene of the incident, the express lanes are moving along just fine. Now, let's get you onto 123. That's where we have a crash involving a tractor-trailer. Northbound 123 Ox Road in Lorton. That's jammed past the incident near Lorton Road. Maryland 32. Crews tell me they've reopened the lanes, but a little suspicious. It's really still hung up here. Route 32 eastbound before you get to 108. In the stop and go, the crash was before you get to 29. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Stormwatch 7 forecast.
We've got great weather this week. Sunny skies today with a high near 80 degrees. Tonight, mostly cloudy, overnight low 58. And we have a pristine weekend ahead of us. Friday will be sunny with a high of 82. Saturday will also be sunny with a high of 82. And Sunday will be partly sunny. You know, you got to mix things up with some beautiful clouds here and there with a high near 79. That is a perfect day for the Washington Commanders to defeat those arrogant Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, I'm kidding. The Eagles aren't arrogant. Their fans are. It's 56 degrees right now at 8:18.
WMAL. Making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Stream us live online wherever you are, whenever you want. Download the new WMAL app today.
Congressman Jamaal Bowman is a menace. He's a jerk. He's a vandal. He pulled a fire alarm to disrupt congressional proceedings. And, of course, he was then a liar when asked about it.
I still stand by your statement that the fire alarm was an accident.
You know, I don't know why this has gotten so much attention. I was literally just in a rush to go vote, man. That's all it was.
Are you afraid of any repercussions, either from leadership or from legally from Capitol Police?
I mean, listen, I take responsibility for what I did, you know, but like I said, I was in a rush to go vote.
Yeah, well, that's a lie. And yesterday, I guess he took responsibility. He surrendered himself to authorities and was charged with a misdemeanor count of falsely pulling a fire alarm. Now, Mercedes, if you or I or one of our no good children pulled a fire alarm in a school or at a mall or something like that, we might get charged with a misdemeanor for falsely pulling a fire alarm. We might get charged with something worse. You know, they always like to say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater or whatever. But what Bowman did here was more than just a misdemeanor falsely pulling a fire alarm. It was a deliberate act to obstruct congressional proceedings.
Absolutely, yes.
And after January 6th, that is punishable, I believe, by the electric chair, based on how they treated.
I mean, the J6 folks end up in jail for 20 years. Some of them that don't even show up to J6, they get a felony. They get sentenced for a long-term, long prison sentence. And yet you've got this congressman, obviously it's this double standard, where he is not, in essence, I mean, he's charged with a charge of raising a false fire alarm. It carries a maximum sentence of 6 months in prison and a fine of $1,000. All he had to do was issue a formal apology to the Capitol Police and pay the fine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and the charges will be withdrawn in 3 months.
And he could have caused chaos in the Capitol because of his actions.
100%. He did cause chaos. Think about AOC hiding under her sink when she heard that alarm go off. I mean, she's still got PTSD.
I think she hides under her sink every day.
Well, that's
frankly.
probably true as well. It's outrageous and it's disgusting. And by the way,
he lied.
When you compare this to January 6th, by the way, there's one other aspect of this that is glaring. Where were the 30 people storming in with guns blazing at 5 in the morning to Jamaal Bowman's home, terrifying his family and children if he has them? That's what they do to a January 6th parader or protester. Right. But he gets the dignity of surrendering himself to authorities, a very civilized process. If somebody on the right, it doesn't even have to be J6. If you're praying in front of an abortion clinic, the FBI sends a squad out to arrest you in the middle of the morning. We are so tired of this.
Outrageous. It's outrageous what the Democrats can get away with. So, I mean, look, I think, unfortunately, I don't think much more is going to be done here. I think he obviously will get away with it. And, there's little to no accountability. Just apologize.
By the way, this is my favorite part of the New York Post write-up. Security camera footage. We have still not seen the security camera footage. Speaker Johnson, could you please release this today? Security camera footage reviewed by the investigator reveals Bowman jogging down a staircase away from the emergency exit door he tried to open and then walking at a normal pace as he leaves the building. In other words, he pulls the fire alarm, then he runs away, and then as soon as he's out of it, then he starts walking like nothing happened. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know how'd that happen? This seems so premeditated.
Not only premeditated or emotional, disturbance, but the fact that he doesn't think it's a big deal and he just felt like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong.
No,
it's the way the Democrats behave.
The arrogance of power. It's
Completely.
8:23. Coming up, Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform. Keep it here.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
Making sense of your now
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
8:36. In 30 minutes, we hand it over to Mercedes Schlapp's best friend, Chris Plant. Mercedes, I know how.
He's my primetime best friend.
I see. It's okay.
You're my morning best friend.
I'm not jealous. He gets jealous. I'm not jealous. We have plenty to get to here, but of course, one of our major topics all morning has been analyzing the man who became Speaker, Mike Johnson. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, you may think, who's this guy? Where did he come from? Well, we've had lots of help sort of answering that question for you, and we turn now to Grover Norquist, who knows everybody on Capitol Hill, because if you're a conservative Republican, you kind of have to, get the stamp of approval or disapproval from the man who runs Americans for Tax Reform, and Grover joins us now. Good morning, Grover.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good to see you. Last night and this morning.
Yes, it was great touching base with you at the Independent Women's Forum Gala, and so I before we get to Johnson, it seems like Kevin McCarthy as minority leader and then for a brief moment as speaker, he seemed to be okay on tax policy. It seemed like he said all the right things, right? But I never got the sense that it was like part of his DNA.
Well, he took the pledge never to raise taxes, and he kept it. Most Republicans do take the pledge and keep it. George Herbert Walker Bush had a small problem with that.
Yeah.
And it cost him the presidency. So the good news is that since 1994, when the Republicans won the House and Senate, they did so the year they had 96% taking the pledge.
Yeah.
And they've never raised taxes since. So he was a standard issue Republican who not only opposed the Speaker McCarthy, who opposed any tax increase, and who fought for tax cuts. So he was fine on the tax issue.
That's good. So then tell me about your assessment of Speaker Johnson, his career, because one of his first challenges is going to be this battle, the continuing resolution that should turn into actual appropriations agenda. And you know that Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden would love to get him to raise taxes.
Good news is that's not going to happen. There won't be a tax increase. And every Republican speaker since Gingrich has made that clear. This is never happening because their caucus has promised not to. But there will be fights over budgets, absolutely. Mike Johnson is a standard issue Reagan Republican. He took the pledge. He fights for lower taxes. He's serious about reducing the size and scope of government. He gave a beautiful speech before the legislature and put out a statement of his 7 principles, and they could have been written by Reagan. They were written by Reagan. It is everything you want in an elected official. It says, look, we're going to leave you alone to run your life the way you want to. We're going to follow the Constitution, and we're not going to let the bureaucratic state run your life. If you're not elected, you don't get to tell people what to do. And if you are elected, you shouldn't do it too often, tell people what to do. So he is the consensus candidate, which has worked out very well. There was a lot of people were tired of the 8 guys who said, no, we blow everything up. And why? What do you want? We don't know. We can't tell you. Or it changed every week. They kind of faded into the background, and Gates, who was part of it, was voted for the next guy. So there wasn't really a point to getting rid of McCarthy, but having done it, we
Grover,
needed to find somebody.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you on that. I think that for conservatives, there was definitely a sense that they didn't feel they were being listened to by McCarthy, that McCarthy really spent a little more time leaning heavily on Democratic support when it came to the stopgap deal. So I think for the conservatives, I think it's a victory to have Congressman, now Speaker Mike Johnson, now leading the House. I do want to ask you about the government remaining open. I know that's always a big thing when it comes to the government shutdowns. What do you think the Speaker is going to do in terms of trying to keep the government open? Do you think he's going to be able to unify the Republican conference on that?
Well, if the 8 behave the way they have, the answer is no. If instead they decide to work as a team, look, the Speaker's job is to keep the Republican Party in the majority. The job of conservatives is to elect more conservative Republicans and to inform the American electorate so that they want more conservative elections, not to have 8 guys decide, well, we'll push people into traffic and see if the cars stop, and they didn't. So the job of a good conservative legislature is to get its own person elected and to help other people get elected and to expand the Republican base. The job of the Speaker is to make that easy. One of the challenges we have is McCarthy raised $500 million. Who's going to do that now? He put in millions of dollars to elect some of the people who voted to throw him out. Okay, where are they going to get $4 million in the future that they couldn't get for themselves? So there are a lot of issues here, and one of them is, can you win elections? If you have really beautiful plans that in your imagination, that if you and 2 people agree on it and you have this great idea, but you can't explain it to anybody, look, you're of no use. Okay, that's not helpful. Jack Kemp came into office, and he wasn't in leadership. He wasn't on a key committee. He went to the American people and to other congressmen and built a consensus, let's cut taxes by 1/3. That was a very radical conservative position. Reagan didn't even have that position until Kemp sold it to the party, sold it to the country, and then it was a winning issue that even Democrats voted for. Kemp is the model, sitting in a corner and screaming that somebody else doesn't do your job, handing the Speaker, I have a bill, I have no co-sponsors, make it happen. That's not being in government, but that's what people did, and it's got to stop.
Well, Grover Norquist, you can never do wrong by quoting and referring to Jack Kemp on this program, that's for sure. If I could,
he changed the world.
Really quickly, though, what's up with that stash of that, what is it, 80,000 new IRS agents, that whole thing? I mean, I'm sure you're still motivated to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yes, the Democrats in the bill that they passed all by themselves, no Republican votes for it, put $80 billion into hiring 87,000 government new IRS agents and IRS people. The fight that blew up recently, the 8 or whatever, they never did anything to fix that. Okay, what happened was when they put a $300 billion tax increase into the budget, the debt ceiling deal, $300 billion tax increase, by getting rid of a bunch of tax credits, we had to come up with a tax cut that went with it. And worked with McCarthy, and we put in, let's abolish the $80 billion for the IRS, which the Democrats claim will cost almost $300 billion in taxes. This was an idea that the Speaker had, okay? And it fixed the problem that the people who weren't paying attention to the big picture put a tax increase in front of the Republican caucus and told them they should support it. The 8 guys, the people who claim to be conservatives but don't mind tax increases, evidently. That got fixed, and but you can pass that in the House. Could you pass that in the Senate and the Democrat White House? You couldn't. But what we did get when we went into the negotiations, we started with, you got nothing for the IRS. We ended up with $20 billion, $22 billion taken out of the IRS. A quarter of what they got was taken out and not available to the IRS. And what did that signal? That meant the next time we have a fight with them, you know what? If we need $10 billion for something, you got it. It's out of the IRS. They're now the slush fund.
That's the slush fund for the Democrats. Oh, sure. Oh, you could have that. Just take the money out of all that money you were going to use to hire the IRS agents. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Grover,
so
we got to leave it there.
Real progress. Yeah.
Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform. Thanks for joining us.
It
is 8:45 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, here's Jamie Whitten in the Hadid cover. I mean, Mercedes, who among us doesn't want to wrap? Thank you for being here, though.
It was a blast. So happy to be back.
You know, Chris Plant is here, too. He's ready
really?
He's ready to take over. Oh, don't act
the
like
Plant man.
Yes, she loves her Chris Plant, that Mercedes Schlapp.
Well, sure. You know. Well, we work together by
I just
night.
keep Chris on check. That's all I do. Like, I try to get him to church, try to get him back to the
Good luck
faith.
with that.
That's all I do.
All right, Mercedes. Chris Plant, what are you going to talk about today?
Oh, nothing. You know,
Nothing.
of course, you got this terrible situation in Maine, and then you've got this. We've got a Speaker of the House, and that's kind of funny.
And he speaks.
And he speaks well, and he prays, and he seems very normal, and he's MAGA, and the Washington Post hates him, and that's good enough for me.
He must be destroyed.
Pretty amazing, and also more funny